What's going on, grappling fans? It is Tuesday, and we're back again with another episode of Who's Number One. Today is a very exciting show because we have none other than two-time ADCC champ JT Torres joining us here on the broadcast. JT, thanks for calling in, brother. We also have our regular co-hosts, Michael Sears, Ricardo Amendolia, and Bear from Show You Roll. What's going on, fellas? How are y'all doing out there?
Doing great, hanging in there.
So,
What's up,
JT, you
Good
were just
T?
telling me it's a little bit of a weird vibe out there in New York. What's it like out there right now? Can you tell us how your life is these days?
Man, it's strange times right now, especially, I mean, all over the world, I'm assuming. But I know for a fact here in New York, things are just strange right now where, everything is closed for the most part. People are not really out and about. People are staying indoors. You get that weird vibe where yesterday actually I went to the supermarket to get a few things, and you can tell people don't want to be near each other. Uh, there's pictures coming out of Times Square right now where Times Square is like completely empty, which is unheard of. It's just insane. It's just some real strange times, man. I had to close down my academy. I literally have nothing to do. Where I'm usually a person who's training, teaching, traveling, competing, doing this, and that, doing something, and now I just have nothing to do, and just I don't know. It's almost like time has frozen out here.
Yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable. Bear, you're there in California, one of the harder hit states right now. What's life like for you? I see you're still in the office, still going to work.
And just trying to find toilet tissue on eBay. If I could find some pot or on the shelf for a loaf of bread, I'm a happy man. But besides that, it's like California is a great place to be right now because there's no traffic. But other than that, just like everybody else, kind of like riding the wave.
Ricardo,
Yeah.
your turn to chime in here. We've heard from everybody else. How you doing up there in Canada?
Yeah, it's going good. I live kind of like in a suburb part of the city, and there's not many people outside. It looks kind of like a ghost town. I know, like more closer to the city in Toronto, like there's like a guy pulled a gun on another guy trying to get some toilet paper. Two people got arrested at Costco the other day, fighting over toilet paper. It's a couple here incidents like that, but yeah, not much else really going on. I've kind of staying in the house with the family, watching some. I'm reviewing Bear's old half guard DVD, so I have some secrets to beat him in our Who's Number Three match. So I'm just doing some tape study. I got something for him. I got something for him. But all
Ricardo,
seriously, everything's good. Everything's good.
JT, so your academy's closed down right now, right?
Yep, it's closed.
How long is that? Has it been shut down for?
So I shut it down actually before they made it mandatory to shut down. So I shut it down last Thursday night was the last class we held. And the reason why I shut down a little bit earlier than most academies is because my academy is located in Westchester, New York, which is the epicenter of this virus here in New York.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I'm like probably a few miles away from New Rochelle, which is, it's been blasted all over CNN and Fox News the last 2 weeks. That's where the problem is here in New York right now. And like I said, my academy is only a few miles away from there, and I have students who live in New Rochelle. So I told myself, man, I don't really know what I'm dealing with here. I don't want to get somebody sick and then spread through wildfire through the academy. I don't want someone to get sick and spread it through, and they're saying there's people who are sick that don't even show symptoms. So we don't know who's who right now. We don't know who's sick, who's not sick. Just the unknown. So just for the safety of everybody, the community, I'm trying to do my part and trying to stop the spread. I know there's some people out there who don't believe in it or calling it a hoax or whatever. But, my fiance has family in Italy right now. And, I told her like last week, hey, get in contact with them, see what's going on. And, the things that we are hearing are for the most part true. Everyone's just shut down, locked down. People are running out of space in the hospital. So I can see why we're shutting down and trying to quarantine out here to avoid having those same issues that other countries like Italy are having.
Yeah. So I'm sure your day normally is like all teaching and training, basically, right?
Yeah. I'm a full-time instructor and a full-time competitor still. So my life is super hectic and busy, which is a life that I love. And times like this make me realize how much I love my lifestyle. But yeah, I'm usually training, teaching, doing something, running, lifting, I'm always on the go, 24 hours a day, pretty much. And now just literally shut down, like nothing to do. I'm just sitting at home, just scratching my head, man, trying to get wrap my head around everything that's going on.
What are you doing to pass the time? You working out at home? You playing video games? What are you doing to pass the time over there?
Right now I'm playing a lot of Madden. A lot of NFL Madden right now. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing a lot of, and that's pretty much it. Been trying to work with my online website, which I'm grateful I had that already set in place before all this happened. So, I went to the academy yesterday, filmed a whole bunch of like solo drills, things like that uploaded and still uploading, so my students can, use them and try to do something while being at home. But other than that, man, just organizing the house. I cleaned the house up yesterday a little bit, and that's it, man. That's it. I literally have nothing to do.
Yeah, you doing any workouts around there? I mean, I'm doing like push-ups and like yoga at my house. I don't know, because I'm working from home as well. You doing anything to stay in shape out there, or are you just taking it easy?
What is a good solo drill? Like, I try and think about how to do that, and I end up just doing like the windshield wipers and thinking like I'm an idiot.
Shrimping in your bedroom.
Shrimping in my bedroom. Like, what kind of solo drills do you got going on out there, JT?
I like using the belt, working your spider, lasso guard, moving hip to hip, side to side. I like the ones where you hip up, lock up triangle, come back down, kick the legs out, back in, then up again for the triangle. Those kind of drills are good drills where they keep your technique sharp and also give you a little work. I'll get you sweating a little bit. Another one I like to do is where you hip escape out and then you belly out, pretend you're coming up on a single leg, and then you just windmill back through to the other side. So this way, another drill to keep you sharp and also keep you working out and staying active. But to be honest with you guys, right now, I'm not doing anything whatsoever. I'm trying to see the positive out of this situation where, like I was telling you guys earlier, I'm constantly on the go, working, moving, drilling, training, lifting, running, whatever it may be. So my body's always beat up, for the most part. So now I'm taking this time to kind of let little nagging injuries heal up a little bit and, give myself the rest of the week to kind of recover, let the body heal up. And then next week I'll start doing little workouts and training sessions here on my carpet, pretty much.
Yeah. You, oh, wait, shit. Completely skipped space. Space, what I was going to say. You go for it, Chase. Completely forgot.
All right. Well, Bear, what's the community like out there in California? It's one of the most condensed jiu-jitsu hubs in the U.S. Are gyms still operating out there? I know that might be one of the last places where it's still I see a lot of people training on my Instagram and things like that.
I think some gyms are open. I think a lot of gyms are shutting down as well. I think just like every day something comes out. So like one city, as like each city hits, it's like, okay, this city is no longer offering food restaurants to be open. So I think it just happens per city every day, like another city's closing. So each gym is closing every single day. So I think it's kind of trending to probably by the end of the week, maybe like 80% of gyms will probably close and probably 10 or 20% will still be kind of rogue and operating. But it just looks like everything's going to slow down for probably like the next 2 to 4 weeks until we pass this whole thing, So.
Yeah, it's wild for me. I'm so not used to being home that I used my oven for the first time the other day. I've been living there for 7 months, so I'm a little self-quarantined since Friday. So I figured out how to make coffee and how to cook at my house. So I'm making progress.
Serious. How many of those DiGiorno pizzas have you eaten? Serious.
I've had 5 DiGiornos. 5 DiGiornos in 4 days.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey, don't sleep on DiGiorno. DiGiorno's is really good. Especially in a pinch like this.
I'm telling you right now, with all these gyms closing, no one's gonna be doing jiu-jitsu anymore. Everyone's just gonna be on their Peloton bike cycling.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a new thing probably.
Yeah.
Speaking of DiGiorno, my wife thought I was crazy last night. I ate a whole DiGiorno and then I ate this whole thing of Ben and Jerry's, and I ate so much that I got sick and I couldn't do anything. She was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like,
"Bro, you gotta ration that stuff."
I was legit ate until I got sick last night, so I got to get it together. I'm gonna get fat working at home. All right, so you guys ready? You want to move on to showing some ADCC stuff? Move on to that.
I think
get away from the virus talk.
We've covered the State of the Union, I think, pretty clearly here. Let's go to some happier times. Let's see some ADCC action.
Do it.
Ricardo, you put the clips together, so you go ahead and call them out and let Caleb and them know what to play, and then we'll get it going.
Okay, so the first clip is a match with you and Celso from ADCC 2017. live from Henlu. I'm getting flashbacks here from Finland. I can't see the clip rolling yet, but yeah, here we go.
There it is.
So this is pretty interesting. Like, you guys had a pretty hot match. There was a moment there where you ended up in half guard. I think we're going to roll a little bit of that before that, but there's a really slick little half guard sweep that I was kind of specifically wanting to get your feedback on. So give us some insight. Oh, there's that like arm drag inside leg trip. Man, I've probably seen you hit that about 10 times in all the clips that I've been watching. Tell us a little bit about that first, because that's something that you just have on.
Yeah, so about that inside double leg.
Yeah.
Oh
wait. Sorry. Here it is. Here's the half guard.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So walk us through what's going on right now.
It's when you hit that John Wayne sweep, JT. When you hit that John Wayne sweep on the little tip.
Right. So what happened here was I actually shot a sweep single, and I made the mistake of reaching for his waist, and he did a good job of hitting me with the Uchimata there, putting me on my back. So he put me on my back, and I felt him kind of bunkered down in my guard. Like, he wanted to stay there. He scored, and he wanted to stay in place and not move. So I've been working this technique a lot where when someone on top wants to stay on the two knees and not really move too much, I go to the half guard and I trap. On the same side of the half guard that I'm playing, I trap that arm. I grab at the wrist there. But when I grab at the wrist, I'm actually grabbing real nice and light. I don't want to grab them too strong where I'm squeezing the hand and I'm make them feel threatened there. So he kind of relaxed there. And when he relaxed, that's when I hipped in, and I just hipped him over to the side where I was controlling his hand where he couldn't post out. And I think from the clip, he may have posted on his elbow, so I just hipped out to the other side, reached around his back, and just escaped out the back door. So that's where he hit me with the Uchimata there. So I still playing my half guard. So I get to the position here, and then I just feel when he steps back over, he just wants to stay tight, nice and heavy and low, not really do much here. And right there, boom, reach out the back. Yep, came out the back door. And, for those out there who've competed against Celso, you guys know what I'm talking about. He's a hard dude to hold down. He's like a little, tank. I don't know how to describe him, but he's hard to hold down. But I caught him off guard with that sweep.
But what about
there where
JT, to go back to that little part before we missed it? Like, that was super interesting, that control that you were using, like right after you hit the sweep and you jumped to his back. And like you almost it was almost like an over under like Kimura grip, but almost like a clock choke / body lock under control to use it to not let him step. I haven't seen that much in Nogi, so that was like really cool to see that variation.
Yeah, that's something I practice a lot, especially during the ADCC camps. It's just those awkward positions where you got to hold your partner when they're standing, trying to avoid the back take. And it played out pretty well for me in this match.
I think we'll see that.
I haven't seen too many people use that
shortly here.
Like right here, then right here as he jumps up, like you try and jump on the back, and then you fall off a little bit.
Yeah, it does look like a clock choke.
Control right here.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a clock choke, and like I've never seen anybody use that control to kind of keep someone down. It's super cool.
Yeah, I didn't want him to reach back with his arm to overhook me, so that's why I kept that double underhook and kept his arms flared out to give me a better chance to control him.
JT, how long have you been doing that arm drag from the feet? Because you're money with that thing, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but I started wrestling when I was like 11, 12 years old, and that's a takedown I started developing at a young age. And I remember, when I started doing jiu-jitsu, wrestling took a back seat, but I always wrestled. Especially during the summertime when college kids would come home, I would wrestle with them at the mat clubs and keep improving my wrestling. So around the same time, I remember watching Marcelo Garcia hit that arm drag a lot, but Marcelo would always arm drag and hit to his hip. And then what I started doing was, combining his arm drag, but then combining with a double leg. I used to love shooting double legs. So I said, I'm going to arm drag, but go forward. And that's something I developed at a pretty young age. I'll say probably when I was a teenager, I started working that a lot. And I remember wrestling with kids from college, wrestling solid college wrestlers and taking them down with this takedown. I'm like, okay, if it's going to work on them, I'm sure it's going to work on some jiu-jitsu guys. And that's how I started. And it's been one of my money takedowns ever since.
I remember I was talking with the guys from FloGrappling, and they said that the I don't know if you want to call it a trip, but the kind of sweeping action you do with your foot on that double leg is actually a little bit uncommon in wrestling, like in college wrestling.
It is.
Where did you pick that up? Where was the inspiration for that?
It's almost judo. That's something else I watch too. There's a lot of judo. I'm actually a brown belt in judo. A lot of people don't know that either. I'm a brown belt in judo, and I like to kochigari. It's when you go inside and like a little movement to the inside of the leg, and it's almost like a variation of a kochigari, but I'm just hooking the leg instead of trying to sweep the foot out. So I'm hooking with a deep hook and just collapsing to my knee. And it's true what you said. A lot of people in the wrestling world don't expect that takedown. So I remember when I was doing it to these other wrestlers in practice, they were like, "What the hell is that?" I've never seen that takedown. And yeah, I mean, it catches a lot of people off guard. It's a fast one, so it's like a combination of Marcelo's arm drag and a combination of a kochigari and a blast double leg that combined all together. And it's just been using it for years now.
Very nice.
All right, that's awesome breakdown of that one. Ricardo, you ready to move on to your second clip?
Yeah, second clip I chose was a match with you and Gary Tonin. And you guys had an amazing, you've had awesome matches over the years. And this little ankle pick here was something sweet. Little trip here coming up with the foot, boom. And, the thing for me that I wanted to know is, like, that was so slick. It looked like it was so precise. Was that something that you felt really confident going into the match with Gary, or is it something that you did kind of on impulse because Gary lowered his base and was popping back up? Or talk a little bit about that. Like, where'd you get the inspiration for that one? And is it something that you specifically trained or just kind of improvised with? I love hearing when people improvise stuff and how premeditated attacks were. I get fascinated by that a lot. So go for it, JT.
Well, the ankle pick's also another takedown I've been using for a long time. There's like a really good picture of me actually in the finals of Pan Am 2015 where I'm shooting an ankle pick on the Florida boy actually, and it's a really cool picture. So that's a takedown I've been using for a long time. And in this match, I've known Gary for years. We actually competed once before this, and I know his style. His style is a dangerous style, so you got to be super careful with him. So I told myself, if I'm going to wrestle Gary, if I can get his leg up high, it'd be an easy way to put him down in a safe way, right? I don't want to shoot in too deep and have him go for, like, I don't know, a guillotine or a Kimura trap that he's pretty good at. So when I saw him loading heavy onto that left foot, I saw a lot of weight. He was, leaning forward, and I saw that left foot of his pretty heavy. So I said, I'm going to snatch it up, and picked it right up. Once I picked it right up, I knew it was money. I knew he was going to go down.
That's almost exactly like it's like he finishes a little different, but the setup there is like a John Smith. That's like the way you drop down and cup the heel like that. Yeah, that's basically like a textbook John Smith setup. Did you do that in your wrestling days a lot too? Yeah.
That's another takedown I would practice a lot. In wrestling, I would do it I'd bring the head inside and sometimes pick the person up over the top. But like I said, Gary's a dangerous guy, so I wanted to avoid doing any of that. So I wanted to take him down without having to get too close to him, if that makes sense. So when I picked that foot up, I wanted to finish from, this high up position where I hiked it up and had space to work with.
Yeah, I think the way you're talking about you would finish it in wrestling is a little bit easier to finish with shoes on, too. Like there, it'd be a little bit easier for Gary to slip out at ADCC and everything.
Exactly.
I think the one thing that's interesting about that clip too there is the way you finish the takedown. If you look at the score, there's like only 40 seconds left. I mean, that was a definitive moment in that match. I was surprised that Gary didn't scramble away. Was that because you had the control on the top of the thighs? Like, what was your finishing kind of position there, if you could remember?
So let's see it again. So I hit it 1, 2.
Because Gary's such a scrambly guy, my immediate reaction was that he would try and run out of there.
Yeah, like if you watch the match with him and Renato Canuto, they couldn't finish a takedown on each other at all. They were all scrambling.
But he just did he accept that? Or, I mean, it just seems very odd that it was so clean.
I think the scrambles came from shots, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of guys, when they – sorry to interrupt you, JT, but I think the biggest – as an observer – what everyone seemed to do with Gary was shooting on him, and then he would just sort of put his arms out and roll out of every single takedown, whereas that kick prevented – exactly. Like, he was doing that as a joke against Wagner and just jumped out of it. So with this ankle pick, it kind of prevented him by bringing his foot above his hip line he wasn't really able to swivel out like that. So I think that was a good way to prevent his scrambles. Really slick.
But going back to what
100%.
Chase said, something that really, obviously this is from 2017, something that really impressed me at 2019 ADCC about JT was your ability to finish takedowns. Because a lot of guys were getting a single leg, getting a double leg, getting it to the ground, but not getting the two. It seemed like you were planning ahead of time with your shot to control their hips or whatever, and put them on their back and get the two when you get there. Is that something that you really game plan for at ADCC?
110%. That's something I worked a lot with my wrestling coach leading up to both ADCC editions that I won, was finishing takedowns with control. You see a lot of people get a takedown, they just want to do a big dump or like throw them over, just make a big movement, where I'm very precise with the takedown, where when I finish a takedown, I want to stay on the hips. I want to try to land into like the half guard type position. Very similar to how MMA fighters want to finish takedowns, right? I remember when I was training a little bit of MMA, one thing I've always tried to do with takedowns and things like that, try to land in the half guard. So it would be harder for the person to pop back up to the 2 feet or work their back towards the cage again. So that's something I definitely focused on and worked on, was not trying to just, dump the guy over my shoulders and dump them on their head. I was trying to finish takedowns with control, where I would control the hips or landing in a half guard type situation.
Barry, you got anything to add about this?
I think the curious thing is just on the wrestling side on JT's, like he's shown like a ton of growth over like the last like 5 years, and he's just been dominating in ADCC, and he's probably one of the very few guys that have made like transitions from the gi to no gi and been able to do both really well. I think his wrestling has been superior in a lot of this stuff, but he's able to transform like a bunch of like technical kind of gi things, but kind of hybrid it to like no gi, which is like super interesting to see in ADCC format, which is a very like wrestling dominant format, or even like a leg lock format. So it's cool to see. I'm a fan. So
JT, who is your wrestling coach these days?
His name's Marsh. He's my strength conditioning coach and my wrestling coach. He's a beast. He's a smaller guy too. I think he wrestled like 133 or 141 in college. So he's a super technical high-level wrestler. He spent some time at the Olympic Training Center himself, so he brings a lot of knowledge and experience on how to train, and just the technique part too. He's just a mastermind in that department.
Very cool. Should we move it on to the next clip?
Yeah, let's move it on. Yeah, JT, if you ever want them when these are playing, if you want them to pause it or rewind it or anything, our producers can hit that for you too. All right, Ricardo,
okay.
you wanna introduce the next clip, Ricardo?
Yeah, the next clip, it's a little longer. I think it was mostly, I just wanted to hear your kind of take on what you were doing to kind of prevent a lot of the leg entanglements that Gary was trying to do on you, because it seemed like you really never get in a spot of danger, and you shut down a lot of the attacks before they start. Gary, like,
right.
Positioning his legs in positions, like you see him inverting, and you're just not, it looks like you're always staying in this comfortable distance where you're putting enough pressure, but not staying close enough where he can bite you, So can you talk through that a little bit about like how you're able to kind of shut down a lot of their attacks, and specifically with like the leg lock guys, and you see Gary, constantly inverting and playing around there, but talk a little bit about that.
So my whole goal against, guard players in general is just to keep my hips low and heavy to the ground, where I force one of their hips to the ground as well. I don't want to let him stay flat on his back where he can elevate with both legs. My whole idea, if I can bring him to either side of his hip and pin that leg down, the one that's closest to the mat, he only has one hip to work with. And you see, this is a perfect example. I'm doing that right here, where I'm just going super heavy to my left there, forcing him down to that hip, and just, kind of taking away the spacer, not giving him much space. Even here where he's trying to get underneath here, I'm staying super heavy, hips nice and low, working for inside control. That's another thing I try to do here, is work inside control. I'm always staying with inside the legs with both arms, legs always inside, always in a combat base here. Like I said, just trying to force him to the side. So right here, he's kind of flat. I'm not liking that, so I reset the position here. Now I start working towards one side where I force one of his hips to be compromised, and now I can start leading to the other side, working for knee cuts and just smash passing straight through here. I go for the knee cut. Of course, Gary's, one of the best in the world, and he's good at scrambling, but I'm constantly attacking, putting that pressure forward, which doesn't give him much opportunity to get underneath me and work attacks of his own. Yeah, so like right here, another example.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Like right here, I'm forcing him heavy on that hip, but I'm also attacking the head here as well. So I'm giving him a couple things to worry about all at the same time. His guard, his head. Even in positions like this, also studying your opponent helps. I know Gary likes when people spin around to the back so you can roll through for that knee bar, but I'm staying patient here, taking my time. Here I hook the leg. I feel him hook my leg here. So I was a little patient there. Instead of me jumping to the back, I take my leg right out. But just knowing the opponent helps too. But like I said, I'm just trying to always stay on my toes. Very similar to wrestling, right? Wrestling, you're always, when you're wrestling, you're on your toes so you can drive forward. And that's something that I do really well and try to bring to the jiu-jitsu world. Always stay on your toes and driving forward.
I see you're putting your leg between his. You did it a couple times and took it out. Were you baiting him, like trying to force him to roll, or were you trying to get what kind of reaction were you looking for?
Yeah, so I was trying to work that Darce there, but he was staying super solid on all fours. So I was trying to put my leg there just a little bit like a bait. So he would try to roll through, and if he would try to roll through, he would compromise his neck, bend his neck for me. This way I could have locked that Darce in. But he was smart. He was smart there, and he felt the danger of that Darce. So he wasn't really trying to roll through at that point.
How do you approach, like, Gary Tonin is such a dangerous guy, and he's also so unorthodox. Like, obviously he's sort of one of your rivals, but it's like you're not going to get the similar look from people in the gym like you're going to get with Gary Tonin. How do you approach a match with Gary when you're going up against him?
Just always knowing your position, right? And so what do I mean by that? Always knowing where all four of your limbs are located, right? Never making a mistake of just kind of flailing around and throwing your limbs anywhere. You got to be very calculated with Gary. And like I said, you have to have body awareness with him. You have to know where your limbs are at all times. That rule is a rule that I follow with everybody, but especially with someone like Gary, who's very dangerous from all positions. Like you guys are saying, he's scrambles well. He's very on. It's hard to read him, right? It's hard to know what he's about to do because he's just all over the place. That's his game, which makes him so dangerous. But like I said, knowing where all of my limbs are located at all times, so I don't leave any of them hanging out for him to take.
Hey JT, I want to chime in here on the position. It seemed like Gary's known for like loading up like a lot of the Danaher guys and getting under to try and lace the leg for like leg entry. But it seemed like on your side you weren't really too worried about it, and every time he would kind of like get under you, you would kind of swim in and kind of like swim back into where your legs weren't completely committed. So do you feel pretty good about that? Anytime someone's getting under, to kind of like swim back in and not too jeopardize on them tangling up your leg because they got under you?
Exactly. I think people make a mistake when they try to kick out right away. Sometimes when you go to kick out right away, that's when the position gets a little bit tighter. They get a good bite on your leg. I always try to get inside control and make sure that my knee line's exposed. And once my knee line's exposed, I can continue swimming inside for inside control, or once the knee line's exposed, I can also have the option of kicking out at that point. But I always make sure that my knee's exposed and I have inside control and not panic. I try not to panic, not to freak out there, and just stay aware of the situation.
Yeah, because there was a part there, we passed it already, but there was a part where like both your legs were in almost, and when most people get in that spot, they kind of freak out a little bit. They roll, they do a bunch of things, but for you seemed like really composed, and it just seemed like you were just trying to swim your arm in so you could get your body back in, as opposed to just like freaking out and spinning out right away. So that was interesting to see, like you stay composed in that spot. So
100%, you have to.
All right. Yeah.
And
great
JT,
insight
do you guys train a lot of leg entries and stuff like that as you guys get closer to ADCC with that rule format, or have you just trained so much with leg locks that you feel really good in kind of getting out of them coming up to a tournament?
Both. I gotta say, I know leg locks have become more popular over the last couple of years, but that's something I've always done since I've started training, which I'm very happy about. Like, even when I first started training, I remember there was guys who were always going for knee bars and ankle locks back in that time, which was like early 2000s. That's always something I've been exposed to and learned about from early on. in my jiu-jitsu career. And then, of course, leading up to the tournament, I do focus more on the leg locks and things like that. I focus on leg locks, wrestling, and back takes when it comes to tournaments like ADCC. And, I'm also located here on the East Coast, and for some reason, I think the East Coast is more popular with the leg locks now. So I have a lot of students who are pretty solid in that department. So when it comes time to train for ADCC, they keep me sharp in my defense and my reactions, and even on my attacks too. Maybe one day I'll show that, to do some leg locks too. We'll see.
Back when you were at the main Atos in San Diego, who were some of the leg lockers there? Who would be the guys if you wanted to roll with somebody who you'd have to defend heel hooks? Who were some of the top heel hookers out there?
Man, there was this guy named Jimmy Frederick.
Oh, yeah.
He was a brown belt, and he actually fought ADCC. I want to say 2013 in China. I think that's the ADCC he fought in. Yeah, he fought Bushesha. Yeah, I think he may have fought another one. I'm not really sure, but really cool guy. But he was a bigger guy who can invert and was pretty flexible and had super strong hips. You know why I remember now. He was a, if I'm not wrong.
He was
He played like USC water polo. I trained with Jimmy before.
Yeah.
He was like high level water polo, like at USC or something.
Yes. So his hips were just crazy strong, and he had pretty solid leg locks, man. So he was the one heel hooking everybody at Atos for a little bit. So he was one of the good guys to train with, and to help you keep you sharp in that department of the world of the game.
Man, that's great insight there on all that. Ricardo, you ready to move on to the next one? We got Lepre. We got Lepre next. All right, let's check out this one.
Okay, so obviously we're going to go with Lepre, and this is a special one for me because I've seen you compete against Lepre, time and time again. I mean, I remember running the 2011 trials in Jersey, and you fought Lepre in the finals, and it was like pins and needles, like so, you know what I mean? So close, you were so close to getting it, and then when you end up finally beating him back in the day, it's just like you went on this upward trajectory. You had his number after that, and talk a little bit about this match in particular, because I believe Lepre had you in the same position earlier on in the match, if I'm not mistaken. And just kind of walk through, getting him down, and maybe a little bit about your history with Lepre overall.
Yeah, so, Lepre's someone who I've been competing against for 10 years, maybe more now. I compete against him a lot. He definitely has most of the victories in our battles, but most of the victories that he's had, all our matches have been pretty close for the most part, right? They've always been pretty close, down to the wire, like you were saying. That one fight in New Jersey at the World Pro Trials was super close, super tight. So, having experience competing against someone like this is only going to get you better, right? So, part of the reason why I've progressed and become the fighter that I am is because of competitors like Lucas Lepre. Competing against someone who's that skilled over the years is only going to force you to get better. And, having so many battles against him, squaring up with him in the finals of ADCC, it just felt like another match to me. I didn't make it a big deal in my mind, which I think helped me come out with the victory in this match, because it was a long match. I think this match was like, 25, 30 minutes. As we know, it's hard to score in ADCC, especially in the finals. You can't pull guard, and it's tough to score. And then after you start sweating after the first 5 minutes, it's even harder. It's like playing slip and slide out there while trying to grapple. So coming into this match, I just treated it like any other match, worked hard, and stayed calm. There was one part where I shot a single leg, and I picked him up over my head, and we kind of went out of bounds. And as we went out of bounds, he spun to my back, and we restarted with him on my back. And I told myself, you know what, I'm not going to panic or anything like that. I had, Professor Galbao in my corner coaching me, so he gave me some good coaching too. He told me in that situation, hey, stay right there for now. Because there is something in the rule where if I would have rolled out, gone to my back, or rolled out to my back, he would have gotten the points for a takedown. So I stayed in turtle for 30 seconds, where it kind of reset the position. Then I escaped and kept fighting from there. So having an experienced corner helped me too in that match, especially in that situation. And we kept battling. And then when I got out to his back, I knew it was in the bag. You know, I knew this was my championship to take home with me. You know, but like I said, it's always a hard fought battle with Lepre, and you know, I'm very happy that I was able to walk away with the world title in this meeting that we had in 2017.
Do you approach things a lot differently with him as opposed to no gi compared to gi? Obviously, you fought him a bunch in the gi. You fought him,
Yeah.
like how do you approach your strategy with him differently when he doesn't have the gi grips? Is it do you change things a lot or?
You know what? I try not to. You know, I feel like my game's pretty solid gi and no gi, and it's pretty similar gi and no gi where it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna try to take you down or sweep you and then pass you and then submit you. So I try not to change much. I still keep the same approach. Obviously, with the gi, it's a little bit different with the gi grips. Where if he gets his gi grips, he has a little easier time stopping the shot. Where without the gi, you know, I can use my wrestling a little bit more. But I try to, you know, I would say if there was one thing I try to change or focus a little bit more on when we compete with the gi on, it's just grip breaking, grip fighting with him, and still trying to set up my takedowns off those grip breaks.
Yeah. It seems like his passing, like you ended up in a position there when he was sort of starting a knee slide, where typically in the gi he would take a collar grip and sort of settle in, and he's really patient there. It's sort of a different battle with him there in no gi. It definitely seems like.
And especially that we're slippery too, you know. It's
Yeah.
hard for both of us, you know. I mean, especially at that point, we're 28 minutes into the match. I mean, we're just both dripping and then sweating all over the place, and the mats get nice and slick too. So it's a different game, though. That's for sure. It's a different game in that sense where it's harder to slow down the pace and get position just because it's so slippery out there. Less grip, I guess.
I'd like to go. I'd like to see the back take. Can we show the back take again, Tyler? Maybe walk us through the back take there near the beginning, if they can find it. Just play it, and when we get to it, he can talk about it. Yeah, right here you get to him behind him on the hips.
Yep. So I'm weighing super heavy. I have my right forearm across his hip here, staying super heavy, trying to make him lean over to that side where this way he can't escape or bail out. I'm trying to kick his feet out, trying to, you know, loosen up his base here, see if I drop him to his butt or down to a knee. And I'm just trying to stay heavy here. This way he doesn't have much movement. It's almost like I'm pinning him into the mat at that certain spot. So he doesn't move. I'm anchoring him down. Let's see. My right forearm still keeping him heavy over his thigh and hip. I have inside control with my right foot here. I think at one point, I throw the hook in here. Once I throw the hook in here, I like to reach up for the head and the hip here. But he knew if he would have accepted that position, it would have been a score for me. So he had no choice but to turtle. And once he turtled here, I told myself, I'm not losing this position here. This is it. This is mine. So basically, I broke him down to the turtle. Or I broke him down where I tried to finish the takedown to his back, and he had to make the choice, accept the takedown right there and then, or turtle, because in ADCC you won't get points for the takedown if you turtle. So he took the gamble, he rolled the dice, and he went to the turtle position. But that's something that I'm known for. You know, I believe in my back takes. That's something I drill a lot and train a lot, especially for these tournaments, is back takes and back attacks. So when he went down to the turtle position, I jumped over to the other side, got my seatbelt, threw my left knee in, and just sagged him down, and threw the hooks in. Locked up a body lock here. I wanted to lock the body lock as quickly as possible just because we were so slippery. Here, he did one little movement, and we were just so slick here. He was able to hip out a little bit, but I was able to hold the position long enough to score my points here. I think I tried to come up to the mountain here, but like I said, it's just so slippery at this point. And you know, he's a great competitor too. Can't take anything away from him. He doesn't stop. He kept trying to push to the end of the match.
I think what people don't understand too, JT, is like if they've been watching your career for a long period of time, like once you get someone to a knee or you get someone to turn on a shoulder, like your back take is probably top 5, you know, in the game as far as like once they expose or they turn the shoulder or they get to a knee. So like like there's very few people, yourself, Felipe Pena, a few people is like once they get to your back, they're in a really, really bad spot. So
Right.
on your side, like what part of your strategy is like, hey, let me get him to a spot where I can expose that because you're so good at taking the back? Is that a part of like strategy going in as well? Force him to a
100.
spot to where you can jump to the back?
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I try to combine my back takes with my takedown game, especially in a rule set like ADCC. Like, you get taken down, give up the points. But if you go to turtle, there is no point. So you see a lot of people shoot takedowns, and the person will try to defend by, turtling up, and then they try to, gamble by trying to roll away, or like we saw Gary Tonin do with Wagner Hosha. He kept doing the Granby roll out of it. So people try to take that route, but with someone like me who practices that position a lot and who has really good control from there. That's my world. So I try to shoot double legs, single legs, and try to always spin to the back. And if they go down the turtle on their own, perfect. If not, you'll see what I did there, where I was trying to break the person's hip down, kick the legs out, throw one hook in, and then just weigh him down. And then once I get him down to turtle position, it's game on from there.
Yep.
All right, we got 3 more clips left. Ricardo, you want to introduce the next one?
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the last ADCC 2019. This is your match with Ross Nichols. Ross, really dangerous submission guy. You're starting off in a half guard here. You ended up passing, get the submission. Talk us through that a little bit, if you remember, the position specifically and, kind of how you went through there.
Yeah. Ross is someone that I think a lot of people don't know unless they're from the UK, right? But he's someone I've known for a while because he's actually also sponsored by Tatami. So we've done photo shoots together. We've hung out together in the UK when I go out there and visit. So I knew he's a top-notch competitor and he's a killer. But his guard is really good. He's got flexible hips. So, I was just trying to put pressure forward the whole time. He did a really good job of holding me off. But eventually towards the end, I think my nonstop forward pressure kind of weighed him down, broke him down a little bit. I was able to secure position here and get the submission. Actually, I wasn't sure if he tapped or the time ran out, to be honest with you. I think the time ran out. I'm not sure, but I mean, the arm was in. I was confident in that arm lock. But like I said, if you guys watched that match, it was the first match too. Started off a little slow, and then I started picking up the pace until I kind of just wore him down. And once I get someone a half guard smash here, I feel super confident. I believe I have good pressure on top, good control on top, which is one of my main recipes for my success in ADCC. It's just that top control. But I feel real good here. Again, I'm trying to force my hips down to the mat, giving him no space here, mean cross faces, and always trying to windshield wipe out through that half guard. And while I'm doing that, always staying aware of that underhook. I have that underhook with where do I come back with my right arm? Yep, get that underhook, and now I pass off here. I actually like to attack something I call the tricep lock from here. A lot of people don't know it, but I attack the tricep lock where I'm putting a lot of pressure right above his left elbow right now, which hurts. But also makes it easier for me to pass. I was able to kick my hips out and then spin around for that arm lock right there.
Yeah, I love that. Go ahead, Bear.
Keep on going, Mike. You go.
All right. Yeah, I love that arm lock. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that arm lock, especially no gi. Once you get the side control, there's not as many options that getting the underhook and spinning around. But it seems like I did a points analysis after ADCC, and it seems like getting to half guard that's the way to pass in ADCC. Getting to half guard and pinning people down is that's the go-to pass at ADCC. Would you agree?
I totally agree, man. 110%. I mean, it's the best control there is. It's hard for someone to pop back up to their 2 feet. Very similar to like the MMA. I remember there was one time I was training MMA and I passed somebody's guard to side control, and the coach told me, "Hey, don't do that. Stay in half guard. When you hold somebody from half guard, they can't pop up to their 2 feet and escape. Stay in half guard and bring down punches and elbows. Obviously in ADCC, I can't punch and throw elbows, but I can pass though. So I always try to look for the half guard smash and pass from there."
Not to derail the conversation, but JT, how long were you looking at MMA for? Do you have any fights? I didn't really know that you did any of that.
No, I don't have any fights, but I was, I've trained MMA for a little bit. I wouldn't say much. It was more so me helping out MMA fighters for their fights. I was part of a Dominic Cruz fight camp once. I was there for a few weeks out in San Diego. This is before I moved out to San Diego. So I had some experience training and seeing the work they put into, leading up to an MMA fight. Actually, I think I helped Dominic Cruz out when I think he was defending his title against Uriah Faber in the UFC, something like that. It was probably 2013, somewhere around that time. So it was quite a bit ago. But when I trained jiu-jitsu, it was for the simple reason of me fighting MMA. I wanted to fight MMA in the beginning, but the deeper I got into jiu-jitsu, the more I fell in love with jiu-jitsu itself. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do jiu-jitsu. I really like jiu-jitsu. But I've had some, people in my corner who have always told me, hey, man, you should fight MMA. But, I went the jiu-jitsu route instead.
Bear, I cut you off back before a little bit ago. What was your question going to be? Sorry.
No, just I was really curious on JT's point, like you were saying, Mike. When JT gets to the half guard, and also half guard's a super high percentage pass from Nogi, but it seems like I wanted to check with JT how much he's looking for that underhook, and once he gets that underhook, is that kind of like the beginning of everything, as opposed to like it didn't seem like he was like it seems like the underhook nowadays more than before is once he secures the underhook, then the pass fully completes, and then he's progressing. Just as long as he has the underhook, he controls everything. So.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think, what I try to do is actually work my way up. So when I'm looking to get to the half guard smash, I'm looking to pass, I'm focusing on the hips, and I try to hug the hips first with my arm. That eventually will become the underhook. So once I get the hips controlled, I look to shoot the underhook at that point. And once I shoot the underhook, I use it to pass. I double up a lot. I'll use the underhook to help me pull the person in closer to me. And while I'm using that, I'm also looking for chin straps and cross faces. So this way the opponent underneath me has a few things to worry about. They have their hips heavy with my hips on top of them. Then I'm pulling them by the underhook, and I'm also looking with this hand, the free hand, chin straps and cross faces. So there's about 3 things going on for them, which, helps me dominate on top. They'll give me an opening, whether it be a guillotine for a chin strap or an arm lock Kimura, or just let me pass there at that point.
And I think it was like JT said it he broke it down pretty well, but like a traditional way of thinking of the underhook, the way we were taught probably 10 years ago, is you underhook first and then you progress. But it seems like the new way of passing is working to different spots to expose your hips and to isolate hip. Then at the very end, then work the underhook and then completely expose and pass, and then they're kind of done, which you basically did in the video, which is super interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so our next video, before we cue it up, I want to ask a question for you, because this next one is you and DJ. You and DJ trained together for how long?
5 years.
5 years. What was it? What was your guys' relationship like when you guys trained together? Were you guys like training a lot? Was he getting the better of you? Were you how was it?
So we trained together for 5 years, and within those 5 years, I saw DJ go from white belt to black belt. I was already a black belt. So we had a really great relationship. We were really good friends. We still are good friends. But definitely while we were training together, I was definitely getting the better of it. Yeah. Just because when we first started training, he was only a white belt. I would say around purple belt, when he got his purple belt, was when he started giving me a really hard time. And then by the time he was brown belt, we were having really good training sessions with one another. DJ is, he's tough, man. He's tough.
It's hard to score on, right?
Super hard to score on him. He's super short and stocky, and he fights hard, man. That's something that I admire actually about DJ, is that his will to win, man. When he competes, he's a competitor. He's a great competitor because he brings the fight, man. He brings the heat. He comes forward, doesn't stop moving, and he's out there trying to win. He's trying to win. He's not trying to tie you up or trying to score on you in the last second. He's trying to beat you up, and that's something that we both do, and that's something that we've been taught to do. And during our time training together, was to always push forward and go for the kill. So, we're buddies. We're good friends, but the 2-3 days, actually, when we walked out to the mat, when you guys were announcing the brackets and we saw that we were a potential second round, our friendship kind of took a pause there for a few hours. I'll probably see you tomorrow kind of thing. But afterwards, we're cool. I still talk to him. He's, from what I know, he's doing pretty well out there in Thailand. He's enjoying himself out in Thailand. he's a head jiu-jitsu coach out there in an MMA camp. So, but yeah, he's a good friend of mine. But I knew when we got matched up, it was going to be a war, man, because just going back to the time we trained together, I know his mindset. He knows my mindset, and I know his game, and he knows my game too. So I was like, you know what, let's get after it. Let's do it.
What was your game plan going into it? Because, I mean, DJ to me seems like somebody who's sort of tailor-made for ADCC rules. He's got a good stand-up game. He's hard to sweep if he gets on top. Like, if he gets the takedown on you here, like, he's gonna be a very hard to beat. What are you thinking going into this match?
I got to take this guy down. I got to put this guy on his back. And, you know, DJ's strong suit is being on top, you know, takedowns and being on top. And I figured if I take him out of his element and put him on his back, then the match is mine. I had a plan B where if I couldn't hit the takedown, I was ready to play guard and play my half guard game against him, my half guard system that I like to do, like you guys still do, like how I did on Celso. But you know, I'm confident in my takedowns. You know, I feel like I'm a great wrestler. Beautiful. Yeah, I feel like I'm a great wrestler. And
hey, Tyler, can you go back and play that takedown again? Just a little bit further back. There we go. All right.
So arm drag, inside leg trip.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
So JT, I got two questions for you. This was the first time you guys competed since you stopped training together, correct?
We competed once before this at a New York Open, and then this was the second time. But this is the first time we competed no gi.
And was that like, for some reason I could swear he said it or he told somebody at Flo that he knew that if you were going to hit that technique, you were going to score. Is that something that you did, on previously you were training with him, that you felt confident? Or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so DJ was definitely one of the better wrestlers in the room when we were training together. And I've been someone who's always loved wrestling. So whenever I would train with DJ, I will always make it a point to wrestle with him and improve my wrestling too. I always told myself, if you have somebody who's good at something, try to go toe to toe with them, and that's something that they're good at. This way you improve, your game, whatever it may be that you're trying to improve. So I always used DJ as a good training partner for takedowns in the room when we were training together. So I was confident in my wrestling with him. Of course, we would take each other down. He would take me down, I would take him down. So I knew it was a battle of takedowns. I knew if he took me down, it was going to be tough to score on him. But like I said, for these big tournaments like this, confidence is key. Yeah, I got the half guard here. It took my time. And actually, this is pretty interesting here because I'm trying to pass, and DJ does a good job of regaining guard and getting underhooks and stuff like that. But it's about, keeping that underhook, like Bear was saying, keep that underhook, make sure your position is tight and is correct before you move on. So I was going here. We'll go back to half guard here.
What's up, Bear?
No, can you rewind that back in? Because I think he's doing it now, but go back into right before he passed.
Here.
JT, you do something that I've been watching a lot of, in general, but we're talking about that underhook. But you do a really good job right there where you're wedging on your foot. And a lot of people don't use that wedge and the foot along with the underhook to where they're able to pivot and get past that leg. So do you use that wedge where you put the foot in a bunch with the underhook to kind of lift your hips to the sky to kind of pass?
All the time, man. All the time. I think it's such a great tool to use when it comes to passing from half. I use it all the time. It's one of my favorite ways to pass from the half guard smash.
You're going side to side from there a lot too.
That one right there. So that wedge right there and that foot, like not many people pass like that. They don't use that wedge a lot, but then it seems like you use the underhook and that wedge on the foot, and then once you're ready, you explode the hip up to the sky, and then at that point he can't do anything.
Yes, exactly. And my shoulder pressure is playing a big role here too. I'm keeping my shoulder pressure in tight where he's just flat. I'm keeping his shoulders pinned against the mat, so every time I keep passing, even though he's recovering, he's using a lot of energy to recover here, because his back is flat against the mat. So he's, relying on moving his legs and trying to push me off. But shoulder pressure and the underhook positioning and using that foot inside his knee to help me pass, they're a deadly combination there. And it's hard for the person on bottom to keep up. Eventually, you're going to gain position there if you're patient enough and know your position enough. And that's exactly what I did here. Led me to the back take. He had no option but to turn away because he knew the pass was coming. He couldn't stop it, so he had to roll the dice and turn away, which is, again, a a big thing in ADCC, I always tell my students when we train for ADCC and ADCC trials is get ready to train back takes because people expose their back all the time just because it's an easy way to avoid points. But if you know how to hold position and gain position, you're going to do well in that rule set. And when people expose their backs and turn away, you'll be ready for that.
How much? All right, Ricardo, you want to move on to the last one, to the ADCC final? You got anything else you want to cover here?
No, I think we can move on. I know we're running short on time, and
no, we got
JT
time
for doing this. We're totally geeking out right now. All the nerds
JT, how much time do you have, by the way?
Everyone's going crazy here. Everyone's loving this. Thank you, JT.
I have about another week, 2 weeks.
Okay.
I have nothing in for you guys.
All
right.
Didn't know if you had a Madden game you had to get to or something, but
oh no, it's on pause. It's on pause right now. I'm good.
All right. Ricardo, lead us into this final here.
Yeah, this is it's another kind of like an extended clip here, but it's basically the match with Wagner. And I remember commentating this, and you see Wagner stuffing that left hand. He was in your face, in your shoulder constantly. And the thing that stuck out at me was like you didn't flinch. You seemed unfazed. You seemed laser focused. And it didn't bother you. You just kind of stuck to the game plan, executed, and eventually got the win with the back take at the end. Talk about, a little bit about your match with Wagner. And do you fought him at Fight to Win? Was it before this or after this? I forget. It was right before, right?
We fought 2 months before the tournament. We fought at the end of July.
That's right.
I remember that. Hey, before we go into that, I want to add to that. I feel like that's how JT gets Wagner. Is JT's like the only guy who doesn't let Wagner get in his head. Like Wagner goes out there, throws that little jab, and pushes him around and stuff, and you see him frustrate people. It's for real.
Yeah.
Like he gets to people's head, but JT, you really just stay focused and just don't let that bother you, huh?
Yeah, stay focused, man. And it goes back to my training, man. I trained so hard, and I put myself in such uncomfortable positions when I train that when someone's trying to push my, jab my head and jab my throat, and talk to me during a match, it doesn't bother me. I'm too focused at that point, and no, I won't let any of that derail my game or my mindset during a match. I'm focused out there, laser sharp focus.
What kind of stuff is he saying to you?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that. I know Rotolo was saying when Rotolo fought him, he was saying Wagner was like, "Oh man, you don't want to go for that. You don't want to do that." Every time.
Yeah. He kept telling me, "You're too slow." He goes, "You're too slow." He goes, "This is my time." He said a few other things that I won't put out there, but for the most part, he kept saying I was too slow, and it was his time. Which, hey, if that's how he fires himself up, that's fine. But it won't bother me. It won't bother me. I just, a lot of people always tell me, man, how do you not swing back on him? How do you not want to throw a punch back at him? I'm like, that's exactly what he wants you to do. It's exactly
that's
what
how
he
you
wants
lose.
You to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how you lose. And I've seen matches of him where he's doing that, and then the person will swing back, and as they go to swing back, he'll drop down for a double leg and take him down. So
or kick you in the back.
Yeah, or that exactly. But I try to stay focused here. Didn't let it bother me, and I stayed composed. I fought him 2 months prior at Fight to Win, and when I took the match, he was on a tear at that point. He was on a rampage. He was probably the most active competitor, no-gi competitor from the 77 kilo division after the Finland edition, after ADCC 2017. He was probably the only one who kept competing in no-gi as much as he competed more than anybody else did out of that division. And he was on a pretty good tear where he beat a lot of good people. So when I took the super fight, I think I was the underdog in that super fight. So a lot of people, I don't really engage too much online on social media, but I do read comments and stuff like that. So I was reading a lot of comments like, "Oh, Wagner's gonna smash him, this and that," which is fun. And, it's good that he has people out there who are his fans and believe in him. But I had to remind people why I was the ADCC champion in 2017. And I went out there and I competed against him, and I handled him pretty well. I took him down, got him to half guard pass, worked towards his back, scrambled out, and then the match ended. So when we came into this edition, in this final, I knew what I had to do. I knew he was going to be tougher, just because I'm sure he was going to be better prepared for me. But stuck to my game plan, played it cool. Like I've helped being in the finals in 2017 definitely helped me with this one too. Just the experience alone, because it's a long match. You can't go too crazy unless you see an opening. But usually when you get to the finals, both guys are super skilled, so there's not too many mistakes or openings being made or created. So I had to kind of sit back and wait for my opportunity to attack. And when I saw my opportunity to attack, I took it. I believe it was off a single leg, and shooting a single leg is pretty risky on Wagner because he has a nasty Kimura trap. Yeah. But if you guys, when we see the clip here, when I shot my single leg here, I knew right away to pop my head out. It's funny that he stopped for an eye poke because he kept doing it to me all match, but I kept going.
I'm excited. How far away are we from that single leg to Kimura trap? Because that was a beautiful sequence that won you this ADCC title. Are we almost there?
Yeah. I think it was at the end of the first overtime. I want to say it was at the end of the first overtime.
Hey, we could fast forward a little bit because I want to get to that. That was just I believe I talked with you after the match, and you said that was something that you had been planning for from your camp, right? All right, here you're on the back, so it'll be a little bit before this. All right, should be. You go for the single.
So I shoot the single here, and he goes for it, and I pop the head out right away. And when you pop the head out from that Kimura trap, you're not stuck underneath the person. So I was able to, use my left knee actually to pull my left arm out, exposing my elbow and take his back here. And actually, when he's rolling away here, at one point, let's see if we see it here. There was at one point where I almost felt like he tried to spike me on my head right here. Boom. So a lot of people didn't catch that, but I'm like, man, this guy almost knocked me out from here. Thank God I tucked my chin and went with it. But I knew when he went to, spike me there at that point, I knew I had to be careful on the back take because I thought back to Rico Rodriguez and Marcelo Garcia. Remember when he jumped and landed on Marcelo? So at one point when I got on the back, he stood straight up. And in the rules, it says if you go for a submission, he can slam out of it. So I knew once he stood up with me on the back, I knew he wanted me to go for that rear naked choke so he could maybe try to slam me, knock me out, or I don't do something. So if you guys here, I'm trying to go for the choke. I'm trying to hand fight with him. He's doing a good job of defending. Obviously, I don't want to lose position either. But there's a one point when he tries to stand up, and when he stood up, I said, you know what? I'm not going to risk it. This guy already tried to knock me out when we were rolling on the initial back take. So I kind of took my time and waited for him to come back down to the mat.
I had never considered that, because if you're on the back, he can't jump up and slam you if you're just on the back, but if you go for the choke, it's a submission. He can slam out of a submission now.
Exactly. So I knew that already, and that's where experience kicks in. Knowing the rules and knowing, just knowing the rules helps a lot. So we're here. We're trying to fight for the choke. He's doing a good job of defending, and then at one point he just starts building up, like picking me up, and I knew a power bomb was coming if I went for that rear naked choke.
Okay, Tyler, can we go back to before the back take, before he shoots the single leg a little bit? Because that was just a beautiful sequence there. JT, I remember talking with you after the tournament. Pause it real quick, Tyler. You said that you sort of planned for this, right? Like you knew he had a good Kimura trap, and you were thinking going into the match that this would be a setup that might be available.
Yeah, because you know what? I like shooting double legs, and I like my arm drag double leg, but he does a good job of using his length. So he was staying far back and just jabbing me with his right or left hand. I can't remember which one right now, but he kept jabbing me in the throat and the head. So he was doing it on purpose to keep that distance, which was smart on his end. He didn't want me to come in for double leg or my arm drag double leg that I do really well. So I knew that single leg had to be the one that would work on him. I tried earlier in the match an ankle pick, the same one I did to Gary in 2017, but he did a good job of defending that. And so I knew the single leg had to be the takedown to win the match. But I knew once I shot that single leg, I had to pop my head out. Because when you go for the Kimura trap, you use your chest over the top of the person's shoulders and back to kind of pin them down as you lock in that Kimura tight. So once I shot that single leg, sure enough, like clockwork, he went for that Kimura, and boom, I just ducked the head out and had a clear passageway to the back. But before I went for the back there, I used my knee on that same side to push down on his arm to pull my elbow out and expose it out from the Kimura trap. The same way you would clear your knee line from someone's, leg lock entry, to make sure that your limb is safe. So when he went for that Kimura, I exposed my elbow, and I proceeded forward with the back take there.
Let's go ahead and run that clip and watch that in action there.
Yeah, beautiful.
There's that left
Right here, you're saying you're too slow.
Yeah.
Boom.
So I popped my head out here.
Ooh.
Then I used my left knee there on his arm to push and pull my elbow out. Nice. Yep.
How satisfying is it to have that in your mind ahead of a tournament and have it play out exactly like expected and like the biggest moment of the tournament?
It's great, man. I mean, I always say that you're the way you prepare and train and study for a tournament is where your confidence comes from. So I was pretty confident in this match because I knew what I had to do to get the victory, and it played out perfectly.
Shout out to another ADCC 2019 champion, Augusto Tanquino, in the comments right now. Tanquino is watching us right now, watching the breakdown. He says ADCC 2021 is going to be for the lightweights. So I don't know.
It'd be cool.
Yeah. All right.
We were talking a little bit. Hopefully we get something going.
Yeah. Oh, really? All right. Interesting.
We'll see.
We'll
see.
All right, we're done with clips now. Ricardo, you want to go into your ear pick story?
Hold on a sec. So,
right.
The match with Wagner and all
everybody hang out.
Okay, hold on a sec. So, all jokes aside, Wagner's the man. He's a tough guy. He's been winning the trials year after year. And for me, that match was so special because the first time I met both of you was at the 2010 trials, and I think you were in the second or third round. And I remember seeing you fighting in the trials in 2010, and it was in Jersey. And you already had a little bit of cauliflower ear, and someone kept clubbing your ear.
Yep.
You won the match, and then you were supposed to fight Wagner in the semis, and then this happened. You show the picture?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Tyler, we got that picture pulled up? The ear pick?
There it is. Oh. So I remember that thing blew up, and we brought you in the back. We were all trying to drain it. We were trying to come up with ways to make the match go on, and then Medic was there and was like, "Man, if he gets clubbed again, that's gonna pop his eardrum." And at that point they said you couldn't continue. So talk a little bit about that and how sweet it was to kind of eventually get the matches with Wagner. And in the finals of ADCC, look how things have kind of gone full circle.
Pretty crazy, right? So I was fighting in ADCC trials in Jersey. I remember it was tough trials. I fought Gary Tony in the first round of the trials actually. So it's it was a tough bracket. I was working my way through it, and then I won my third match. And I forget the guy's name. I want to say it's like Peter Nunez or something like that. I could be totally wrong, though. But it was something like that. And I think he was I could be totally wrong, but I want to say he was like a Division 2 or Division 3 like national champion wrestler, right? So he was a solid wrestler too. And we were out there battling, and I remember he kept clubbing me so hard, but his clubs, which I'm used to, I've wrestled for years at this point, but when he was clubbing me, he kept hitting me with his form, like right on the side of my head, like super hard, man. I was like, man, what the hell is this guy's problem? So he kept just clubbing me. I remember going into the tournament with a little bit of cauliflower, and every time he hit me, I would just feel like the warmth, and I started feeling my ear just dangling. And I was able to take him down, boom, win the match. So I won the match. And I remember when I walked off the mat, my corner, my teammates, my coaches were congratulating me, but when they were congratulating me, they weren't making eye contact. They kept staring at my ear. I remember just seeing their eyes go straight to my ear, and they're like, I don't know, man, that ear looks pretty crazy. So like the doctor who was at the venue that day came over, and he was like, man, we gotta take care of that ear, or I can't let you compete. And I was like, come on, man, it's freaking cauliflower ear. I mean, are you serious? And it wasn't until I looked in the mirror that I was like, oh man, that's not good. And the problem was like, it wasn't like it was just cauliflower here in the ear. I had like a bubble, like right by my hairline and my sideburns right there. Like you guys can kind of see it in that picture where the blood started going past the ear, it looked like. So that's why the doctor was super concerned. And we tried to drain it in the back, and somehow we couldn't get any blood out of it. It was the craziest thing. it was a huge nugget of just blood and just, cauliflower sauce. And I was like, there's nothing that you guys can take out. And they're like, we can't take anything out. You got to go to the emergency room. And I was like, I said, let me tape it up. Let me wear headgear, because I was supposed to fight Wagner in the semifinals. And the doctor's like, no, man, I can't let you. You got to go to the emergency room. And I remember just being so disappointed, like heartbroken, man. Like, it's so, especially at that point, it was, I was a brand new black belt. It's a dream of mine to win the trials and, punch my ticket to ADCC. At that point, that was, like, I think the only tournament, I think World Pro was around that time too, but it was like one of the few tournaments where, they'll pay the athletes and fly them out and put them up in hotels. So it was like a dream of mine to go to this big tournament. I've always seen this tournament as a kid, as a white belt, and it was just taken away from me because of my cauliflower ear. And I was just heartbroken. But, in 2010, when they did have the ADCC, I think somebody dropped out or somebody got injured, and they liked my performance at ADCC, so they asked me to be a replacement. So I got my shot at ADCC, and that's how it all started for me, was, getting cauliflower at the trials, and then, being a last minute replacement in the tournament following the trials.
I got a question from a fan here for you, from a guy, Andre. I'm going to butcher this last name. Andre Hart Union. He wants to know, how hard do you train in the off season when you're not training for ADCC, C, or Worlds or whatever? How hard do you normally train in the off season?
I'm still training pretty hard. Definitely not as hard as I would when I'm in for ADCC or Worlds or, Pan Ams or something of that sort, or a big super fight. Because you can't, right? You can't train at a super high level all year round, because you'll break down, get sick, or, get injured. So it goes up and down for me, but I still keep a steady pace of hard work. During the off season, I'm still training, still rolling. But the sparring sessions are maybe not as so intense. Maybe less sparring, more drilling in the off season, more working technique and figure out new positions. So a little easier on the body.
Oh, we lost
JT.
JT. There he is.
Back.
All right.
I'm back. So, in the off season, it's, more focused on technique and developing new positions. And even for the strength conditioning side, I tend to lift heavier in the off season, build more strength, build muscle. And then during the season is a lot more circuits, running, cardio based workouts, which I think sometimes are harder than just lifting heavy. But yeah, still training pretty hard, but of course not as hard as I would, just focusing more on technique.
Got another good question here. Another old teammate coming back here. This is from Matthew Zamora. What did you take from training with Mike Fowler for a couple years? Any lessons or memories that stand out?
Yeah, Mike Fowler he was one of the first black belts I trained with who had really good control. He was someone that if you let him in on a deep knee cut or let him get to half guard smash or the mount, it was hard to move him. And I never really felt something like that up until that point. And I knew that's something I had to work. I had to work that sense of control. Like once you get to a dominant position, not letting anyone move or go or scramble out. And that's something that stuck out to me. And, Mike Fowler has a huge impact on my game. Like I said, he was one of the first who really showed me that sense of pressure, how to really hold somebody down and pin them down. He had unbelievable pressure on top.
Yeah, a lot of guys may not remember Mike Fowler was, one of the best American guys after BJ Penn to kind of go out compete internationally. And I still remember in 2007 ADCC beat Henzo, beat Nelson Montero, I think, beat Saulo, I'm pretty sure, the same day. And then, ended up losing to Galvao, I believe, or Mark Bocek. It was one of the two. But, man, that year Fowler just shocked the world. Every ADCC, somebody does that, and that was, that was like everyone was just like, what the hell? Mike Fowler's, man, he's an OG to the truest form, But
OG,
not like
man,
Bears,
OG.
Not like Bears. Bears,
Shout out to Mikey Musumeci's in the comments. He says, you're awesome, JT. Mikey's a fan of you.
Mikey's awesome, too. I'm a big fan of his, too.
Yeah. So
Hey, I got a question for JT.
yeah.
Yeah.
From an old guy. JT, just that perspective of like, I don't think a lot of people know that like you're probably one of like the second generation of like younger jiu-jitsu athletes saying started from like your teenage years or even younger. Like you're kind of like
Yeah.
that second wave of it. The first wave was kind of like Glover, Cooper, Chris Morarji,
Yep.
and like those guys.
Yep.
And then you were like the second phase of it, which was like you, Grippo, Mikey, Ian McPherson, and like that next wave of American grapplers. Like now
Right.
we're in kind of like that third phase of it, which is kind of like the Rutulos and whoever those American grapplers are that are going to be that next generation that started either when they were like 5 or started when they're like 12 or 13. So like, how do you see that? How do you see the evolution of like because for 20 years, 30 years, Brazilians have just dominated it because you have people in Manaus training since they're like 6, and all over parts of Brazil. But now there's people in Canada, Europe, and specifically America is like the next part that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu became popular. So how do you see the Americans being on that next wave of being able to compete on an international level with the best in the world? Let's just use Brazil because Brazil basically dominated and they still dominate.
Right.
What's your thought on it?
Man, it's only getting better and better. The Americans are only getting better. Jiu-Jitsu worldwide is only improving, and the next generation is, they have the previous generations to learn from. Like you were saying, like I was the second wave, the first wave. Like these new waves are only going to have more people to learn from, higher level people to learn from. I wish when I was 15 years old, I had someone like JT, myself, to learn from, right? So now this new wave, they have us to pick our brains and learn from our mistakes and just improve on. So I think the next wave is going to be even bigger and better, more technical. They're going to have better training methods just because we're improving year by year, not only just on technique, but on how to train as well, right? That's a big part. Like, how do you train? How do you properly train and prepare yourself for a big tournament and things like that, and maintain a solid physical physical shape all year round. So it's only going to get better and better, and I'm super excited actually for the new generation because now as a fan, I'm pumped, and I'm pumped to be a part of it because I have some young guys in my academy. I have I have this one kid, we call him the Young Law. He's a 15-year-old blue belt. He's gonna, I think he's gonna shock a lot of people in the next coming years. And even I have kids younger than him in my kids program who are just absolute animals. So I'm excited for the next wave, and I'm excited to be a part of it. As like a coach, I want to help this next generation. I want to help them on their journey, and if there's anything I can do to help their journey a lot easier and better, I'm here for them.
What's the young law's real name?
Lawrence.
Don't say his name. Don't say his name. We're gonna ask him on the side. You want him to get hit up on the DMs? Like me and JT are gonna talk about young Lawrence on the side. Don't be putting him on notice to the whole jiu-jitsu world. You guys crazy?
I'll release him to the whole world pretty soon when he's ready. But
unleash the young law on everybody.
Exactly. He's coming soon.
JT, something I'd be interested in, just like when I was coming up, your guys' squad at Lloyd was like, that was the thing. Like I really was into like what was going on. What was the training like there? I mean, you guys had a really special thing going there for a little while with a killer crew. What was it like over there? What was the training and all that like with you guys? What was the atmosphere like?
It was amazing. It was great. I remember we all used to live in the fighter house together. We were all accountable for one another. So if there was one person being lazy, there was 10 of us to pick that one person up. Like, hey, let's get it going. We got to go work out and train. We got tournaments to win. So it was really cool environment, man, in that sense. And then the training was just freaking tough, man, super tough. And especially on me, I was one of the higher belts at that time. Like I spoke earlier, two of my best training partners while I was there was DJ and Keenan. And there was a certain point where both of them were purple belts and I was a black belt already. And I used to be able to handle them pretty easily. It was just a straight one-on-one roll for a little bit until they got better. So what we used to do is have me on the Aerodyne bike doing sprints. Like it would be like 10 rounds of 20-second goes, right? Then after I would do those sprints, I would jump on the mat with DJ and do like a 5-minute roll, boom, and then go back on the Aerodyne bike, another 10 rounds of 20-second goes, and then jump back on the mat, and then my next round would be Keenan. So we used to do training sessions like that where they would just kill me physically, but I got to say though, those kind of training sessions built me up mentally because they just broke me down physically where it was almost impossible at a certain point to fight back just because I was so exhausted and broken down that the mental game was built, right? I had a strong mind, and I think that was part of the training. The training was to see who would break and who wouldn't break, and I got to say I didn't break. I would just keep fighting no matter what. And that's something that I carry with to me till this day. Like you guys saw in the final with Wagner. Wagner was talking, slapping me in the head, but it just doesn't bother me. I've been in much worse situations. Imagine doing Aerodyne sprints and then have Keenan and DJ rolling with you back to back. That's brutal, man. But training was hard, man. Training was tough. Environment was great. We had a great team environment. I still have vivid memories of us pushing one another and helping one another just improve. It was really cool. It was really cool.
I got a fan here is asking, did you train with Ryan Hall there at all, or was that before your time?
I trained with Ryan Hall once, and shortly after I moved down, he had left and started doing his own thing. So I only got to train with him once, unfortunately.
At what point did Keenan's guard start becoming really annoying for you? Because it had to have gone from a point where you were like beating up on him to like all of a sudden it's like, oh man, this is a pain in the ass passing this guy's guard.
His guard was always a pain in the ass. His guard was always really good, man, super good. But it wasn't until like purple belt that he started developing like the lapel game to kind of slow me down from passing and forcing him to half guard. And then once he started playing with the lapels, I mean, for a while I was lost because up until that point I've never experienced that. Right? I was like, man, what is this? I used to get upset at him, like, bro, what is this crap? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, stop, let me go, and let's compete, let's fight, But that was just me being frustrated. But he developed the lapel game like around purple belt, and by the time he got to brown belt, his guard was just on a different level, man. It was just, it was just ridiculous to deal with.
Similar question then, because Keenan has referenced in past interviews that Jamil gave him a lot of the early ideas of lapel guards and stuff like that. Did you have much training with Jamil? Did you learn much from Jamil back in the day? He must have been way younger than you.
Yeah, Jamil was probably a little kid back then, huh?
Kid.
He was still at Coach Donnie's class. He was like 5 probably or something, right?
Yeah, Master Donnie.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. I think it was like an orange belt while I was there, yellow, orange belt, and I would train with him on occasion when I would help teach the kids class, and I would train with the kids and roll with the kids. I always knew he was going to be something special, though. Like he was just unbelievable. He was just so ahead of his time. I felt when he was rolling, I was like, man, this is crazy. An orange belt shouldn't be doing techniques like this. But I knew he was going to be something unbelievable, and he was always a really nice kid, and it was cool to see him, win the world title and become a world champion. It was really cool.
JT, I think you said 2 things that were like that I noticed that I've heard before. I think the first thing you said is you're the higher belt basically in the room, which makes it harder for yourself to kind of
right.
get good training per se. But you did say that you would go through the Aerodyne bike or basically exhaust yourself and then jump into a round with a blue belt or a white belt. But I also heard Marcelo say that a long time ago when there was nobody at Alliance, when basically it was just kind of Marcelo as the Alliance guy. He would say that, Bob always sends fresh bodies at him, even though it was like a Masters guy or a guy that doesn't compete so much. But just because he would send fresh bodies at him would help him up his level of training as opposed to being in a room with the world champions, So did that type of training help you a bunch, just that specifically?
Absolutely, man. We used to do trainings like that all the time. For the higher belts in the room, especially for me, I used to do training sessions where I remember I used to sit I used to sit on my guard, sit in a seated position, and then there was a row of like 5 guys, and then they would rotate on me every like 45 seconds to a minute. So Shark Tanks basically. So we used to do that a lot, and it was brutal. It was brutal because it's hard. It's hard to compete or train against somebody who doesn't get tired, even though it's 5 people. But like, you're training. Imagine training against somebody who doesn't get tired. It's basically what you're doing because they're rotating on you every minute or so. So training like that really helped me up my level because I even tell this to my students now. You tend to see people not roll when they get tired, right? Everybody trains the first round, the second round, and by the time we get to the third, fourth round, you see people sitting off to the side, talking about what they're doing tomorrow or doing on the weekend. And I always tell my students the best time to train is when you're dead tired. So when you start getting into the deeper rounds in class, grab a partner, go ahead, roll, because now you're gonna have to be forced to rely on your technique. And that's something that I did in those training sessions where I'll do Shark Tanks and things like that, be on the aerodyne bike, then roll. I was forced to work and rely on technique just because physically I was out of, I didn't have any muscle in me left or any, scramble ability or explosion of any sort to use or rely on. I had to rely on technique, get into positions where I can keep myself safe or attack from or get to the back. So it definitely upped my level of technique. I felt it helped me become a lot more technical, but more so, mentally strong too, just because in those situations it's easy to give up. It's easy just to like, you know what, I tap, or I'm hurt, I need to sit off to the side. So mentally it also it upped my mental game too, where I couldn't be broken. I just stayed in there mentally strong. And like I said, it also helps you develop your technique. When you're dead tired, you have nothing to rely on but your technique, and that's how you get better.
JT, one last question for you before we have to cut this out soon, but don't rush it. Take your time. You have a crazy pedigree because you went from that champion factory at Lloyd Irvin to all of a sudden you went to training under one of the greatest of all time, in Andre Galvao.
Yep.
Describe. I'd like you go into detail a little bit about how Galvao influenced you, what it was like training under Galvao, how that changed your game up, because you went there already as a black belt, already accomplished. But how did things change for you once you got there with Galvao?
So when I got out there with Professor Galvao, one thing that changed for me right off the bat was just the increase of training partners that were on the same level as me or higher, right? So the room was a lot deeper as far as black belts go, right? There was just more high-level training partners, and that's something that I never really experienced or hadn't had before. So when I first got there, I remember I was just getting beat up left and right. I was tough though. I was tough, and I was hard to push around and things like that. But I remember just experienced that right off the bat. I'm like, okay, I'm tough. I can kind of fight out of positions and give them a hard time, but I can feel that technically they're a step ahead of me. So I knew I was in the right spot. So being in a room like that, I had no option but to level up in my technique, and I felt exactly that happen within the first 2-3 months of being there. I felt my level increasing. My timing was getting better, just having more high level training partners to train with and try my techniques against. So that was a learning curve for me, but it was a learning curve that was necessary that helped me go to a new level. Another thing that I also took away from being at Atos was seeing how someone who was still a full-time competitor and a full-time gym owner run a program, right? So Professor Galvao was, training with us, coaching us, and still winning ADCC titles and world titles while doing that, while coaching us. So I got to see how he was able to train and adjust the training so he can benefit and the students can benefit. And that's something that played a huge role in my life, because when I opened my academy is when I won 2 back-to-back ADCC titles. So I think I learned how to train and run a gym and be a coach all at the same time from Professor Galvao, which is something that was very key to my success now.
What's it like rolling with Andre? Because man, he's the king of ADCC. What's it like when you guys train together in those ADCC camps? What's that like?
It's scary, man. It's scary. It's scary, man, especially during ADCC camp. But he's imagine training with a gorilla who's super technical at the same time. That's what it is, man. It's tough, man, because he's someone that I wanted to train with because he was someone that I thought was probably the most well-rounded grappler in the world, right? I think Andre is good from top, bottom, takedown, submissions, gi, no gi, whatever. He does it all pretty well. So, rolling with him, no matter what position you find yourself with him or put him in, he's knowledgeable from there. He's comfortable there. So it's training with somebody who's like a Yoda, who knows a lot of jiu-jitsu, man. Who knows a lot of jiu-jitsu. He's got a huge wealth of knowledge when it comes to the game and positions and even just his body awareness is crazy. You know how you see cats jump from high, like jump from a cabinet and then land, or twist to the air but land on all fours. He's something like that as well, but he happens to be a physical specimen as well. So it's a nightmare, man. It's a nightmare to train with that guy, but it's also great at the same time because you learn a lot. And he's the ADCC legend. He's broken records, so he's one of the best ever to be in the sport. So to train with him and learn from him is unbelievable, man.
One thing that you can really say about Andre is that he's adapted his game as he's gotten a little bit older. I mean, he's still an incredible athletic specimen. But what do you take from that? You're not young in your career anymore. You're one of the most credentialed black belts, I think. Are you a third-degree black belt now? Is that right? I mean, you're getting up there.
I'm a third degree. I'm 11 years into my black belt now. So it definitely plays a role. When I was a 19-year-old black belt, you can see footage of me then. My game was a little bit different. I was jumping around a lot more movement, a lot more scrambles. Where now I'm focusing on getting to positions and controlling. I always say heavy and steady is what I like to call my game now. I just want to control positions, keep my weight on my opponent where they're forced to carry my weight the whole time. And just always look for positions where the person has no option, they can't move. This way you can start implementing your game plan. So that's how definitely my style has changed. Something I've learned from Professor Gabao, something he does really well is control. Once you control somebody and don't allow them to move, then it's a lot easier to go about your game plan. And that's something I do a lot more now than I did when I was a 19-year-old black belt.
All right, before we cut it off, let's give Bear and Ricardo. I'll give you guys both one last question with JT. Who wants to go first? Ricardo, you got anything for him?
Yeah, JT, just aside from everything that's going on in the coronavirus right now, what's your plans? What's your plans looking like? God willing, everything's good in a month or two. Like, what's your season gonna look like? What do you have any matches lined up? Any events that you're looking forward to? We're gonna see you back at ADCC again. Tell us what's in store for you.
Yeah, I mean, man, to be honest with you, I was planning on. So I had a third coast grappling match coming up. Obviously got canceled, and then I was supposed to be competing at Pan Am's I don't even know what day it is. What day is it today? Tuesday? This upcoming weekend or this past weekend? I've lost track of time already.
Yeah, it would have been Saturday. You would have been competing.
Yeah, so I registered myself for Pan Am's, and then I was going to do the New York Open and the Chicago Open, and then go right into Worlds. So I was planning on doing that. All of that got canceled. I'm not sure about Worlds, but I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Worlds this year. I don't know if it's going to happen or not happen, or if they're going to require points or no points, because I still had to make points I had to make 5 points, I think, for Worlds this year.
Really?
But now I don't really have an opportunity. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really know what's going on, to be honest with you, as far as competing. Right now, my main focus is just, having my academy survive this storm we're going through right now, financially, trying to keep the doors open so when we do pass through this, there's an academy to go back to and teach and train at. So that's my main focus right now. Of course, I want to compete. Like I said, I was looking to compete at Worlds this year. I was excited for that. So I'm not sure if that's happening anymore. But what I can say is I'll definitely be back at ADCC for 2021, and I'm looking forward to that. But as of right now, there's nothing really planned. I know there's some people who are talking about holding events in May or June, but I mean, I can't even look that far ahead right now. My main focus right now is, like I said, is trying to keep my doors open. So when we go through this, pass through this, there's an academy to go back to.
All right, Barry, you got anything for him? You got a question for JT before we go?
No, I think I'm just curious on JT's thoughts on the sport and the culture and kind of its position now and things that he would like to see in the future, just creatively or just inspirationally, like what he would like to see happen, and some of it might be like dreams or aspirations, and some of the stuff might just be kind of what his thoughts on it. So I'm just more curious on that from JT.
I love the direction that Jiu-Jitsu has taken. It's growing worldwide. Of course, just like in anything, there's things that I like and don't like. But for the most part, I love the direction that the game is taking and how there's more pro events coming along. And that's something I've dreamed about since I was a white belt, seeing, events. I remember watching the UFC and being like, man, I can't wait until Jiu-Jitsu is like on a stage like that and there's a big crowd of people watching. And now you see that starting to happen on more often. So I'm excited with the growth of that. I would like to see that happen more. I like to see the athletes treated more like professional athletes as the sport continues to grow, which I think will happen naturally, right? As the sport grows, more money gets put into the sport, more viewers and all that. I think too, to help do that process though, there are some rules and positions that need to figure out. Like I'll go back to it, but I remember last year at World when I fought, I got caught in 50-50. Pretty much spent the whole match there. The whole, yeah, we spent the entire match there, and I ended up losing it. Well, I don't know, 4-2 or something like that. But I just remember looking over at the ref like, hey man, please stand us up or something. Like, how they do in the MMA when there's like a stalemate, or even in wrestling, there's a stalemate. Yeah, okay,
stalemate
reset.
Position.
I feel like there's got to be something done like that. This way, people actually want to watch it. I think that's why people right now prefer to watch no-gi over gi. And I'm someone who loves both. I love gi and no-gi. But I remember walking away from that match. I'm like, man, I don't even want to watch this match if I was someone in the stands. Like, this is terrible, Yeah. So I think they need to figure out some rules to make the game a little bit more exciting and avoid things like that. This way it's more fan-friendly, because that's really what it is. When we get more fans to watch, the more money we're going to get, the bigger the sport's going to grow. Everyone benefits off that, right? The more fans there is. So I would like to see that happen. I would like to see some rules get put in place for positions like double guard pull, 50-50, even some lapel guard situations. And, with that being said, I don't want anyone to get pissed. Like, oh, lapel guard works. It does work. And guys like Heenan, even guys like Hibamar, they use lapel guard and attack from there. But there are some people out there who use it to kind of stall and slow the game down. So
lapel and 50-50. The lapel and 50-50. No, when they use the lapel in the 50-50, they're basically just doing it just to hold people. That's not like a worm guard position.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm referring to, where I got stuck at Worlds last year. Yeah. And it was frustrating, But I hope they make a rule
JT,
where... Yeah.
JT, sorry to break you, but we've been exploring this idea just as an idea. But let's just say, example, the simple rules were 6-minute match. You only get one timeout, mount, and back take. That's what you get. How would you like that rule set in general? Everything else kind of flows, but that's basically what you can do. How do you think that would play out?
I think it would force them more action, actually. So I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to explore on and build off. But, things like that, like what you just suggested, will force more action and the fighters to actually fight, and not try to just win a match by a last-second advantage or sweep. And it will bring more action, which will bring more fans.
There's a position that I think needs to be a stalemate position. And you see it happen in like Roost or Light Feather, where like they both basically have like a backwards close guard on each other sometimes, and it's like they're just like taking turns going on top, and like nobody really has anything to do. Horrible
to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, like just stand them up. I agree. So I mean, I come from wrestling too, and stalemate positions those are great. It's like, hey, nothing's happening here. It's a stalemate. Get back up or whatever.
Stand back up. Yeah.
Yeah. To push the action. All right, guys, we're getting kicked out of the studio. There's another show starting in 20 minutes. They got to get us out of here. JT, thank you very much for calling in. This was awesome, man. And get back to your Madden. I got a question for you. Who do you play with in Madden? Who's your team?
The Seahawks.
Seattle Seahawks. All right, I didn't see that coming. All right, Ricardo, take it easy out there. Don't get beat up for any toilet paper in Hamilton. Bear, take it easy, man. All right, I'll see you guys. Anybody watching? Tomorrow we have Buchecha at 5 Eastern. Thursday we have Andre Galvao at 2:15 Eastern. Friday we have Lachlan Giles at 5 Eastern. So a big week. So every day we got stuff. Thank you so much, JT.
See you guys. Stay safe.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys for having me. Take care, guys.
Later, guys.